Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another Design Art Talk. Today, it's going to be really interesting as we talk about one of the most important things you need to do as a designer: research. How do you actually conduct usability testing? We have with us for the same Vasudha Shah. Hi, Vasudha. Vasudha is currently working as the lead user experience researcher at Ola and has had over 4+ years of experience previously. I'm so happy to have you here with us. How are you doing today?
I've been doing great. Thank you so much for asking, and thank you so much for having me here. Yeah,
Yes,
excited
thank
to start.
you. Same. I think it's going to be loads of fun and learning on this great topic. So, over to you now.
Okay, awesome. I'll just start by introducing myself. As thank you so much for the introduction, though, Siddhi. Um, you guys know my name. I graduated from Purdue University with a major in psychological sciences, pre-medical sciences, and a minor in human development. I can't see everybody else, so this is weird. But anyway, yeah, I have been doing research for about 4.5 years now. I started it back in 2017. I think so. Yeah, it has been fun, and I do Friday sessions every Friday, as I just mentioned, at 8 p.m. And this is exactly how I try to help people who want to break into UX research and just make a really good career in UX research. I have also founded India's first UX research community, which I'm extremely proud of, and all the people that are in it are extremely humble and really empathetic towards each other. So awesome. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Now I will begin. Now that I've introduced myself, I will start the presentation. Cool. So today we're going to talk about how to conduct usability testing. Awesome. So how I have structured this is in a way that first I'm going to talk about what is a usability testing, what is usability testing, then why do we conduct usability testing, what are the steps to conduct usability testing. This is all that we're going to talk about today. Cool. So, what is usability testing? So, it basically refers to evaluating a product or service by testing it with representative users. So, you basically do your routine stuff in UX research that is for another session, but basically this comes after once you made the user criteria, screen your participants, so you have the target audience that those are your representative users that you want to evaluate your product or service with. So the goal is to identify any usability problems, maybe by collecting qualitative usability testing or by quantitative usability testing, and determining the participant satisfaction with with the product. Then, why do we really conduct usability testing? So this is basically done to understand how real users interact with your website or app and make changes based on the results. So let's say maybe like majority of your participants or majority of the users do not want a certain concept to go forward, and they are not able to understand, and those are kind of the problems that we understand while we conduct usability testing. So let's say if users do not think that green color is something which is in contrast with it, right? Or maybe it's a lot heavy on their eyes, or the text is very cognitively loaded. So that's when we try to like shift things the way users want them to, because at the end the product is going to the end user, right? So yeah, so the primary purpose of usability testing is to gather the data needed to identify usability issues and improve the website or the app's design. Cool. So before actually I begin telling you more about it, I just want to say that it has a huge impact because, as I just mentioned before, your product is going to the end user, right? So it's extremely important to check even the simplest of details, like having even testing a line or a header per se. That is it making the user feel secure? Is this screen empathetic towards the user? Right, things like that. You just have to win the trust of the user and maintain that security within the user. That's extremely important in order for you, for your product to work, right? Because the person just doesn't need your service, but they also need to feel a little attached to your product only for them to use it more, right? So your product needs to be extremely desirable for the product, for the user. Moving on, what's the scope of the test, right? So that's step number one. So, first of all, we need to ask ourselves and our stakeholders and everybody else involved in the process, why are we really conducting the test? Is there a need to conduct a test? Maybe we can use some other methodology, UX research methodology. So, yeah, that's the first thing that you need to kind of cover in order to understand why you're really conducting the test. Then you need to ask yourself what's the goal or what's the problem, and ask your stakeholders, of course. Try to clarify context by asking, try to get metadata by asking them clarifying context, right? By asking them clarifying context questions, by asking them follow up questions. So just try to define this purpose of the study, or why are you really conducting the study? What's your goal, or what's the problem really like? There may be times that your stakeholders and you are on very different tangents, um, in terms of maybe they are trying to get something else from the research and you are trying to get something else from the research, right? I mean, like, that's what you're interpreting. So what you need to do is maybe like make a research brief. So especially when you're working in a product company, try to like make a research brief questionnaire, which first you listen to them during the conversation, make as many notes as you can, then send them that research brief across and ask them to fill it. It's a short brief, it wouldn't take the a very long time. It'll probably just have questions like, what are your research objectives? What are your business goals? What do you really want to get from this study? What's your end goal? What are the deliverables that you're expecting? And things like that. So it's really important to, the reason why I'm asking you guys to do this twice is because you are in total alignment with your stakeholders, because you are going to embark on a journey which is probably a 2 week long journey of UX research projects, right? So just make sure that your goals are aligned. So yeah, third step is, what product or service are you testing, and on which specific part are you going to focus on? Are you trying to focus on the onboarding process? Are you trying to focus on the final, maybe payment process? What are you trying to focus on? So sometimes our stakeholders tell you that they just want to look at the entire user journey. And usually the problem statements that you get could be vague. And if you are getting those, it's cool, it's normal. But that's why we ask them a lot of clarifying context questions so that we can collect that heavy metadata to understand if we're all in the same arena, right? So also ask them at that time, what do you want to achieve from this research, and what's the goal? Like, do you want to just what's your focus on? Like, do you just want to focus on the onboarding process? Do you want to figure out the last screen, the first screen? Do you want to understand how are users perceiving it? What's the perceived value of it, and things like that? Just clear everything that you have in your mind right then and there before investing so much time in your research. Step number two, after you've done all those things, try to formulate scenarios, right? So usability testing is when you give users a lot of tasks. Okay. So formulate scenarios, tasks, and cogent criteria for success. Very clear criteria for success. So by clear criteria of success, what I mean is metrics. Are you judging the are you measuring the participants' success rate on any sort of metrics? What, if yes, what kind of metrics framework are you using? Are you using Google's Heart framework? Are you using something else which nobody has ever heard of? Are you using one of Nielsen Norman's old trick? So just make sure that you have all of that lined up before. So when formulating tasks, you need to immerse the users into real life scenarios, right? It is important that the tasks have a clear goal, but they cannot be too specific, because you don't want the participant to be led on, because you want to see them in their context and trying to understand how would they go about this journey if you also weren't present there, right? We need to plan the task in a way that should tell the participant what they should be looking for, but we cannot tell participants where they should click or what button to press. So basically, don't lead your participants on. That's extremely important. Otherwise, you lose the purpose of the study. Try to use mixed methodology. That always helps. So maybe using, so let's say if you're conducting a benchmarking study, that can happen in three different ways. So you can do user surveys, you can do quantitative usability testing, or you can do data analyses by collecting some data which probably the data analyst has, for example, right? So maybe using a mixed methodology is what I mean by maybe conducting quantitative usability testing plus user surveys, right? So that will give you more rich data. Probably you can also mix qualitative and quantitative research, maybe conduct a survey, quant survey, and then also conduct one-on-one interviews. That also helps. Or one-on-one user interviews plus usability testing. So that also helps. So try to have as mixed methodology of a research process as possible. Look out for UX metrics, maybe completion rate, error rate, time on success, time to success, satisfaction level, things like that. How satisfied are you with this particular product, and then also try to measure how much time are they taking to finish a task, what other steps are they taking a lot of time on, maybe that's what we want to improve, what's the golden path, the shortest amount of steps one is taking to finish the task, and things like that. Cool. The next one is prepare the test guide, right? So be very sure, make sure that whenever you're preparing the test guide, you have divided it into different sections, right? So the first one would be entire introduction of a test guide, right? And then schedule all the tasks. Maybe we will divide this into 20 minutes of introduction and empathizing with the user and trying to understand, making them feel comfortable, things like that. And then maybe the next 40 minutes just for the tasks, depending on how many tasks that you want to do. So let's say if we are giving our users 8 tasks, right? So maybe three of them have longer user journeys and the rest of them, five of them, don't. So maybe divide the task in terms of how much time it would usually take. This some pilot interviews can always help. I mean, pilot interviews anyway, regardless, you should always conduct, but that will also give you a pretty good idea of how much time is each task taking and how much time should you assign for each task and things like that. The third one is major questions to be asked and things you absolutely do not want to forget, right? So maybe try to like write it down that you got to record the session each time you're making the note taking guide, right? And note the time each time and they make an error, or maybe how long are they taking to finish the task and things like that, if they're able to finish the task or not. So success rate, right? Cool. The next step is step four, recruiting the participants. So whenever you're recruiting the participants, in my opinion, has been pretty hard in product companies. Um, I don't know about areas outside India, but in India, it has been a challenge in terms of recruiting the participants. So you need like dedicated people to recruit the participants. That helps a lot. Otherwise, you can also, so there are three ways we can do this in. So existing users. So by looking at existing users, you can find existing users within the database, right? So communicate with existing users in your database or company database. If you're running the study alone, then roll out a screener questionnaire after you create a user criteria and reach out to people personally. You can also reach out to people on through online panels and services. So just reach out to people online, asking them to participate in your study. You can also post on social media platforms like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Clubhouse, things like that. The fourth and the very common and yet very unheard of here are the guerrilla research. So ask passing by people to take the test, in return reward them with a coffee or whatever you like. So maybe rajma chawal or chana chaat or whatever they like, right? Samosa. So the good thing is that it's cheap. It won't take a lot of money. But the scary thing is it's risky. You don't know who's going to come to you. You don't know who are you treating and how are they taking. So that's why one of the reasons why gorilla is not the best in every atmosphere and throughout the geography is this reason that it could be risky. The third one would be it could give you, they could give you, the users could give you inaccurate data, as maybe this is not your target audience. Because at this time, with guerrilla research, what happens is you don't really like ask them screener questions, right? You're basically just asking people who are willing to interview with you, right? So just make sure that you have your target audience in mind each time you're conducting any study, and target group, target audience in mind, and yeah, just try to do the study in regard with keeping the target audience around your mind. Yeah, cool. The fifth one is conducting the tests here. So here you can divide a questionnaire into 4 or 5 different parts. The first one is introduction. So tell them the purpose of the study. What will the study look like? How are you planning on dividing it? How long is the test going to be for? Is it going to be? Are they going to be speaking with you for 60 minutes, 80 minutes? How much ever? So you got to ask 90 minutes. How much ever you want to ask them. Tell them about your privacy policy. Talk to them about the NDA, any sort of incentive that you're planning on giving. Any sort also that whatever we talk about today, confidentiality clause, and things like that. Second would be ask them about background questions, their previous experience with the product, how well that has been. Was it an unpleasant or pleasant kind of experience? Why did that happen to them? What did they think of it? What are they perceiving of the product and things like that? The third one would be task and task level questions. Here, participants perform them one at a time, and moderator asks them follow-up questions like the ease of use, how easy or difficult was this particular task for you to do, how do, do you feel secure enough with this application or the information that you're giving to that application and things like that. The fourth one is proceeding with the main questionnaire, which focuses on the overall experience with the product or service. So, which task was the hardest for you to complete? How did you feel while, completing these tasks and questions like that? That really helps you gauge the overall picture of the user. Sometimes what happens is you are conducting a study where the user is obviously taking like a million years to finish the task, right? Maybe they're taking longer than expected. Like maybe if a task is for 2 minutes and they are taking, most of the users are taking like 20 minutes or 10 minutes to complete the task, then there's clearly a problem, right? However, when at the end you ask them experience out of questions, so basically just asking them, how do you think you did on the task? Or were you able to comprehend the task? Or how easy or difficult was it for you? And the user would probably answer, it was super easy. Maybe you're testing them on a Likert scale in the experience outcome questions and asking them on a scale of 1 to 7, how did you feel about this task? How easy or difficult was it for you to use? 1 being the least and 7 being the most, and users are probably answering or rating as 6 out of 7 or 7 on 7, that it was super easy for us to use. So that's where um, a bias comes, maybe a social desirability bias. Maybe they're trying to help the moderator, or maybe trying to end the task, that end the study, that, oh god, I have been here for too long, I don't want to talk more, I'll just give it a high rating. Or maybe they're trying to impress the moderator. So these are some of the biases that you need to keep in mind while you're conducting the study, that you shouldn't keep them, and also maybe take some measures to avoid them. Yeah. Sixth one, analyzing the data. So describe the usability problems to your users. Describing the usability problems faced by the, sorry, to your stakeholders. Describing the usability problems faced by the users and note the number of participants who encountered them. So what can help is try keeping a count as to how many participants faced what kind of issues, so that it's easier for you to find pattern amongst them as well. It's one way. There are multiple ways to find patterns and similarity between the behavior. It's one of the ways that you can do. Okay, so organizing these problems helps a lot. So in 1994, Jacob Nielsen came up with these ratings that the severity of the problems depends on the frequency, impact, and persistence of each problem, right? So he rated these in from 1 to 4. So 1 being cosmetic problem only, it's not a huge problem. 2 is minor usability problem, 3 is major usability problem, and 4 is usability catastrophe, right? So just making sure that how are we rating each problem, like maybe in the top two, first two tasks, which were the easier tasks per se, users were taking the least amount of time and the error count was less and things like that. So maybe at that time, Jacob Nielsen, for example, was rating them as number one because they were just cosmetic problems. That's it, right? So that's how you rate problems as well. So if you can just divide your task and try to organize these problems in a way that which one was a very good, very major problem, and which one was an okay problem. It did not have a lot of the users did not have a lot of problems while conducting these uh, going through these tasks. So yeah. Awesome. Seventh one, reporting and communicating the findings. This is, in my opinion, the most important one after, of course, conducting your usability testing with the users. This is extremely important because whatever you're finding, if you're not able to convey that to the stakeholders or to the readers, um, then the purpose of the study is failing because you know a lot, but that knowledge is not being distributed or not being told to, right? So you just need to make sure that you are communicating and conveying whatever data that you have in a very cogent manner, very clear manner. So your findings only have value if they're communicated effectively. So present your findings in such language and format that the data mentioned on the screen is consumable and easy to grasp. So also clearly mention the actionable insights. It's important to tell the readers or the stakeholders that what are the actionable insights. Whatever, let's say if you've done a research and you want to convey to your designers, right? So just make actionable insights in a way that the designers can easily understand what exactly needs to be done in order to have a huge impact for the product to succeed, right? So just make sure that you're writing those actionable insights and giving your stakeholders some solid things to focus on. And I would also suggest that try writing next steps at the end of each report for yourself, research report for yourself, trying to tell them that what can they do in order to, recommendations of course, but what can they do in order to um, make their product more successful in your opinion. I think that also helps a lot. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. My floor is open for questions. Awesome.
Thank you so much, Vasudha, for a quick and great session.
Yeah, thank you
Yes,
so much.
we'll move over to the questions now, and I'll pin them here for you. First of all, we had a lot of engagement and interaction. It was really amazing to see. Thank you so much, audience, for being with us here today. The first question comes from Sahib. He asks that what is the minimum time we should have for an interview while conducting the test?
See, usability testing, if you're talking about one-on-one interviews, it can vary from 40 minutes to 60 minutes, depending on your problem statement, and also how much do you want to, sorry, and what kind of data do you want from it. So it can range anywhere from 40 minutes to 60 minutes. If probably you're doing an empathy phase from design thinking, it could also range from 15 to 20 minutes. But in case of usability testing, per se, it usually takes maybe 60 minutes, again, depending on the number of tasks that you're giving. So, and it can range from 60 minutes. I've also conducted usability testing for 2.5 hours, or sometimes even 3 hours, one interview, for the single reason that they're coming from a different background, different socioeconomic class, socioeconomic status, they have a different education background. They're not able to understand your words, even though you're talking to them in Hindi or English or whatever their languages are, and things like that. So that patience takes a lot of time to come in usability testing. So it can range anywhere from, depending on your tasks, of course. Again, I want to emphasize on that. So this question is a very task dependent question. Like the number of tasks that you give, the more time it will take. It's probably that. So yeah. It can range anywhere from
Right.
60 to 2.5 hours. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. I have a counter question to that actually. Like you said, that it can range anywhere from 40 minutes to 60 minutes, and sometimes one interview can go to 3 or 2 hours as well. So, how many interviews should we actually have to be able to justify our solution or to validate our solution?
So, in terms of qualitative research, I have actually quoting Nielsen Norman Group. So if your car is hitting the same rock again and again, you don't need 65 cars to tell you that you need to move the rock, right? So maybe like you're fine with 10 or 12 uh, data points at that time, and you can definitely go and move the rock. Uh, Quoting Nielsen Norman Group. However, so qualitative research can be done in if you're not engaging into cohorts and segmenting your target audience in cohorts. I think just having one cohort and doing it in 10 to 12 researchers, 20, 10 to 12 participants is a sweet number if there are no segments involved, right? In quantitative research, the number of users can definitely vary. Vary as in it can be as many, it could even go to 60 participants, 80 participants. It really depends on the number of tasks that you're giving on to the users and what exactly kind of data that you want to give and how on what scale is your product going on at. So like let's say I want to conduct a usability testing on a product which is across the country, right? Maybe some clubhouse, right? For example, and I work with clubhouse, but clubhouse, everybody in all aspects of India using that product, right? So here I could segment it into different geographical areas: North India, South India, East India, West India, right? So no, Lucknow, Bengal, Delhi, Mumbai, right? So I'm like trying to cover all sorts of areas and trying to understand that what does each segment or geography want from this. So yeah.
Right. Moving on to the next question, we have from Khyati Mishra, and she says, "Is A/B testing the same, or is it a part of user testing?" Right.
So A/B testing, good question, by the way. So A/B testing is basically when you're testing two different versions and you're trying to understand what do users like better. So do they like version one or do they like version two or whatever, how many versions you have, right? But in case of usability testing, you are already testing on a product. It also depends, like, are you conducting a summative research or a formative research? Formative research is when a product is in the formation stage, right? And there are multiple iterations happening. However, in summative, a product is already out, and you're trying to like understand what kind of feedback users have been having, maybe for a couple of years, maybe for however long that product has been out for. So A/B testing is used in different versions, but usability testing is basically on the product which is already there, and you're trying to understand just one design and what do users perceive from that screen, or what are users perceiving from the product, and what's the perceived value basically, and what are they understanding? Are they understanding the words? Is that making them feel safe? Is that making them feel that they can invest more time on that product and things like that? Hope that helps and answers your question.
Yes, thank you. I think Karan also had some similar comments. He said A/B testing is showing different users, different flows or designs to check which ones fares better. Any comments?
Yeah, that's correct. That's what I said.
Right. Okay. Moving on. How do we minimize, prevent the biases?
That's a very good question. Minimizing or preventing the bias, usually, see, we're all born with multiple biases. I mean, like some of us are born with that's a argumentative comment there, but anyway, so some of us are born with biases, some of us develop biases without our conscious knowledge, right? And we develop it throughout our childhood, so it's not something that is some we can keep in charge of all the time. However, whenever you are trying to understand, and even if you're the most rude person or you're not very kind, and if you are conducting interviews time and again, you become really kind, because you then start to understand that you have to empathize with the user to get data first of all, but also to be a good human being. So trying to understand them, trying to empathize with them, so that becomes really important. So at that time you are compelled to kind of keep your biases aside and trying to understand their perspective and point of view. So sometimes what happens is we are going into a research with a lot of biases, but coming out of that research with a very different answer, and our biases change. So the more we talk to the user, the more we're empathizing with the users, and the more interviews I think we conduct, the I mean, the lesser our biases become, I guess. So, yeah.
Karan again had some really nice comments to give. He says by not directing them or helping them if they get stuck.
Yeah, for sure. That's one way to prevent it, but that's not really preventing a bias. That's more like helping them, helping yourself to get more natural data. Uh, yeah. So I think the best way to prevent the bias is probably interview as much as you can and try to empathize with the user as much as you can.
Right. The next question we have from Rocket. What you do daily in the company, the things you told you do on a daily basis.
Okay, I conduct end-to-end research. I also lead a team, but I am also conducting end-to-end research, which involves basically you know, uh, recruiting participants, shortlisting participants, making a screener questionnaire, trying to understand who are exact target audience, talking to the stakeholders, trying to understand what exactly they want from us, conducting user interviews or whatever methodology we're using, card sorting, quantitative research, qualitative, whatever we're doing. Coming up with a methodology which best fits our research processes. Yeah, I guess then making a final report, trying to give them actionable insights, trying to convey whatever data we found in the most efficient way possible, and yeah, trying to help the business as much as we can. So that's what we do on a daily basis. Um, yeah.
Yes, thank you. I actually would like to ask then how many people are you leading on a daily basis, and what is your way of leading? Because every leader has their own tactics to lead a team, motivate them, and solve problems that they are facing every day. So, are there any two three things that you're applying which helps you lead in a better way?
Leading, good question. So,
Could you repeat? Sorry, you were mute. That then
sorry.
could you repeat? You were mute then. Could you start from the
Oh,
starting?
yeah, of course. How many people am I leading? That's an interesting question. Why? I'll tell you. Because our company is a big company and it has quite a few researchers here and there. So you kind of have to collect help as much as you can. And what are my methods is are you still there? I'm so sorry. What are my methods is clear communication. That really helps. Having one-on-ones really helps as well. So clear communication, just letting your colleague know what you expect from them. What are your clear, like just giving them clear expectations, and maybe a roadmap as well. Roadmaps really help. Just giving them a solid idea as to what do they need to do, what do you need to do, and what kind of projects are we supposed to do in collaboration together. What are some things that they need to do independently, some things which they're supposed to do in a group. things like that. Having one-on-one sessions really help, trying to get feedback from them, trying to give feedback, that's a very constructive feedback in a very respectful manner, that really helps a lot. Just I guess also respecting each other's privacy, that also helps a lot in team building and bonding, trying to not be nosy. So yeah, things like that.
Right. So, I mean, in the end, we come upon the fact that the communication part is really important because how you're communicating with your team can make or break it, right?
Yeah.
So, the next question we have is from Sujani. She says, can't UX designers conduct UX research too? Why does it have to be a different job position?
Uh, Great question. Well, you can do that. Definitely, you can do that. Why is it a different job position? Because UX research takes a lot of time. You know, I mean, research generally takes a lot of time, and UX designers also have other things to do, and we are there to help them, support them, uplift them. So that's why UX researchers are here, and it has to be a different position because some companies don't have, most of the companies in India, it's a growing field. So in the US, Canada, any outside firm, most of the outside companies outside India, by that I mean, they usually have UX researchers. However, in India, it's still a growing field. And the need for researchers is simple, that we will dig into and try to empathize with users and literally connect your product with the users and tell you exactly what they want. However, in case if you are doing designing with researching, you're I guess you're a little distracted with doing too much, right? And it's too much on your plate. So we're actually here just to support you and give you some insights as to how can we make our product better and work as one function.
Right. Nikita asked that how do I communicate with other stakeholders? I'm already one step in usability planning to clarify things.
Um, how do I communicate with other stakeholders? Just be honest with them. Just ask them questions right then and there, as in when you're having them. Because you're in a company and you're all equal. We're all equals, right? So just ask them questions, whatever questions that you have, in a very colleaguely manner. I guess that'll help a lot in a more professional setting. And also, you can bond a lot with your colleagues around, and you can ask them general questions as well. Try to have, I guess, one way to ease communication is try to have one-on-ones with them. Try to have one-on-one communication with your colleagues. It'll also help with the team bonding as well. So communicating then will become even easier, even more easier. Most of your stakeholders then become your friends, and a very happy team that you're working with. But how do you communicate with stakeholders? Just by asking them straight up questions, whatever you have, without uh, you know holding up anything. Because if you're not asking the question right then and there, maybe your report wouldn't give them what they actually wanted to begin with, because you did not ask one question. So try to ask as many questions as you can right then and there. That'll help the most.
I think as designers, we generally, and especially as beginners, we're generally underestimating the power of questioning. But whenever we have anything in our minds, we should put it out and just clear it out then and there, like you mentioned.
Absolutely. I actually read this one quote when I was a child, and I used to, when I was younger, and I used to ask a lot of questions. And I read this quote which said that if you were asking a question, you sound stupid for like a minute or two, but you won't be a fool forever. So that quote always stuck by me, and yeah, hence I asked a lot of questions. But yeah.
Exactly. So, next question, pretty big one we have from Yash. How do you convince people for interview? I know Ola is a big company, but still, I'm working with an early age startup, and it's extremely hard to bring people for interview. What can I do in such a case?
I'm not gonna lie, it does take time. It takes time, it takes patience. So give yourself that. Be nice to yourself. But how do you convince people? You mean, I think by people you're meaning stakeholders, right? That they need I don't actually understand quite this question. So are you asking me
I
that
think
you want to users to come in, or
yes,
are you asking? Okay,
I think
how do you convince users? Oh, by incentivizing them. Just incentivize them with something. Maybe Amazon vouchers, especially when you're working in a company. Uh, Amazon vouchers, or maybe I don't know, cash, or UPI payment, or whatever, of some amount, or giving them something in return, for their time, and that's only respectful because they're taking out quite a few, maybe an hour of their time from the day, from their busy day. So try to incentivize them, and yeah, they usually get convinced with that. Also trying to take help from vendors, or trying to take help from agencies that literally take up people, that they pay people and try to have them come in and talk to. So a field operations team will help you the most, field ops team will help you the most in this case as well. So if your company does not have a field ops team, try to ask your manager, or try to ask your stakeholders to build one, or assign people to do that. If that's not happening, then you have to convince people by incentivizing them. Yeah.
nice. Um, and so Johnny also asked that how did your interview at Ola go?
I don't know till which extent, or what extent can I talk about it, but it was good. I don't know how to exactly answer that. It had rounds. It had a few rounds in my other companies as well. I've interviewed with a lot of companies, and gotten a lot of offer letters, job offers, but all the companies mostly have 2 to 3 rounds, or if it's a lot, if it's a company like Google, it will definitely have more rounds. But usually 4 to 5 rounds is what we're expecting, and some companies only stop till 2 to 3 rounds. I think that's the extent of what I can go to. However, if you have any other questions, you can reach out to me personally, and I'll be happy to help you.
Definitely. We have a link to reach out to Vasudha in the description below. The next question we have is from Pranit. He asks, how to measure usability success?
That's a very good question. How to measure usability success? Um, you can measure it on the UX metrics that I just told you about. So maybe looking at Google's Heart framework is one way to measure success, or measure on what metrics are you measuring success. Are you trying to understand, are the users making any errors? Are you trying to understand if users are completing this task very quickly, or how long are they taking? If they're taking too long, then why are they really taking long, and things like that. That comes a little more into qualitative as well, just trying to understand why are they taking so long, and trying to just observe as well, because you can see that happening right in front of you. But post the task, you can also ask, what do you think, how did it go, and things like that. So how to measure usability to success is by basically like counting the number of participants, how many participants did what, and what percentage of the time, how, like, what percentage of the time it took for them to finish the entire day of all the tasks, and what took the majority of time, and things like that. I hope that helps. I'm being pretty vague about this, but yeah.
Yes. Okay. The next question we have is from Khyati. He asks that when your research says something, but your organization wants something else, how do you negotiate and navigate through that? Next question.
That's a very good question. That's why I mentioned before that talk to them like the first research brief call that you have with them, try to understand what do they need from you, then send across a document of questions, short questions, small document, short document, where there are questions about what are your business goals, what are your research objectives, basically kind of like trying to understand, gauge that what do they really need from you, what kind of deliverables, what's your timeline, in what timeline do you expect this from me, and things like that. So when you send that to them and you also have your notes, then you can align it. That's why it's really important to, then you'd never get to a point where your research says something else and your organization needs something else. So we don't really then need to negotiate and navigate. But if we have done that, maybe try to understand, talk to the stakeholders. Always collaboration is the key to everything. I what I also do is I also give them something in the middle, like midday debrief, end of day debrief, trying to tell them that this is what I found. Maybe either through a short email or just a Google Doc or of a template that I've already made, trying for them to understand that okay, this is what my findings are for day one of field work out of 4 days of field work, and then that's when they're like, okay, this is not probably what we're looking for. So keeping the stakeholder in the loop is extremely important, because then they know what you're doing, and that also makes them feel important, and which they are, right? And it is also giving you the assurance that okay, you're going the right way, this is what they wanted, I'm doing it. Things like that. So that really helps. But if you have done that, if you've already conducted a research which says something else, but your stakeholders need something else, you can try to, well, for that, that's a tough situation to be in at that time because you've invested so much time. So what you can do is try to put that research for its separate purpose, because no research I feel goes to waste, in my opinion, personal opinion. So yeah, what you can do is try to make use of it in some other problem statement. Maybe it'll fit something or the other. Hope to, but yeah, but it's not great to not find separate answers for each. So it's a tough situation to be in. So try to like talk with the stakeholders from the very beginning. That was a long answer.
No, but that was also interesting because a lot of times we have these difficult situations and we really do not know how to navigate through them. But at the end of it all, like you said, collaboration, communication, right from the starting, or just coming out whenever you have the chance, that can save
Yeah,
you up.
just be honest as possible. I mean, it's a mistake, it's not the end of the
Yeah.
world. So even if you've done that, just talk to the stakeholders. They're all humans, we're all like trying to build one product together, so we're basically a team, right? And everybody, if one person isn't giving you that, the other person will always help and uplift you and support you. So try to talk to them, they'll be nice, I'm sure. So
Right. Thank you so much, Vasudha. I think we've come to the end of the questions, and I would like to tell the audience to post any last 2 minute questions that you guys might have. Before that, till we wait for that, I have one question from you, and that is that we discussed shortly upon. Okay, we have one comment I would like to take before, which is be as honest as a student who got their marks deducted because of wrong calculation. Right. Um, so I was saying, we talked upon how there's this field in UX design, UX research. So how do you know that you are made for UX research, or how do you build your skills for UX research? Is there any method to it, or do you just know? How would you?
I actually, very good question. How do you figure out if you like that? Well, I have been doing research for 4 years, and for the first 3 years, I was just so confused. 4.5 years, sorry, and I was just for the first three of them, I was super confused if I why was I why was I doing research? Like, what's the whole point of it? Like, I was super confused. Why am I doing this for free? Is what I was thinking for the longest time. I was like, I should be being paid for this. I was in college, undergrad. So for undergrad researchers, most of them they don't get paid. Grad researchers do. So I was like super confused. The only thing that I was gaining from it was happiness, because I love talking to people. I love observing people. I love being empathetic. I loved listening. uh, that was a big one. So I guess, like, if you are a person who loves to listen, observe, I love taking notes, taking notes, and trying to just make you, like, trying to find answers. If you're a curious person, maybe this is your field. I personally feel you should explore all sorts of arenas. So if you're in college, try to get internships in product design, UX research, UX writing, product managing. everything. Try to get internships and all, something, or if not, then watch a lot of YouTube videos, shadow people for free, things like that. That'll give you a good aspect of what makes you happy. Because getting into a career is like getting married, right? It's a big decision in your life, and it affects you mentally, emotionally, physically. So just try to like make sure that whatever profession you're getting into, it's feeding to your mental health in a happy, good manner. So it makes me happy, and that's the reason why I do it. So if it makes you happy, then I guess this is for you. If it doesn't, then I'm pretty sure something else is out there which you'll find out sooner or later. So
Right, I think that pretty much covered it. And we do not have any more questions, so I think we can wrap it up.
yeah,
Thank you so much, Sudha, for coming here and for such an interesting Q&A session. The whole presentation was lovely. We got to learn a lot, and we just loved the way you took it all.
thank you so much. That's really sweet. I had a great time with you guys as well. If I answered something which was not appropriate or right, excuse me for that. I did not mean to say something which was wrong. So if you guys have any doubts, or if you guys think that I can improve or something, I'd be more than happy to take it on comments, or you can reach out to me personally as well. I would love to learn if I've made any mistakes. Yeah, thank you so much, guys.
Yes, thank you so much to audience for being with us here today and for being as interactive as the speaker herself. For reaching out to Vasudha, you can use the link in the description below. That will give you access to her LinkedIn profile. I hope Vasudha won't mind that.
Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely not. You can
yeah,
also find me on Instagram, and you can also find me on Twitter. And this is what my handles are. If you guys can see my screen,
I'll share.
these are my handles. If you ever want to reach out to me, I'm available on both of them. I'm pretty responsive most of the times. So yeah,
Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for being with us here today. Until next time, guys, thank you and have a great weekend ahead.
you too. Bye bye. Bye, guys.
Bye. Take care.